G'day everyone, I've got an announcement to make. Once a week I'm going to do a live chat show. It's going to be a show where we go for 60 minutes only, so 1 hour, and we're going to have rugby talking Q&A. It's going to be a Q&A for 1 hour about rugby. You ask me whatever you want, send me your questions beforehand, and we'll have a good old chat about what's happened in the world of rugby for the week before. So that's going to happen every week. It's going to be on a Tuesday evening for this part of the world and around South Africa, UK, Ireland and Europe. And for our friends down under in New Zealand, Australia, it's going to be early on Wednesday morning. So the times are on the screen, and we'll do this once a week live chat. So come and join me and we'll have a lot of fun for 1 hour. You can plan it in your schedules of your day, and we can have a good old chatter about rugby and what's going on in the rugby world. Of course, focusing on the Rugby Championship at the moment as well. Okay, now in this episode, I'm going to talk about the Eden Park Test, All Blacks versus the Springboks. I'm focusing on the All Blacks, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's get into the show. Also, before I start today, a shout out to all the Uruguay rugby fans. You qualified for the Rugby World Cup in Australia. Well done. Brilliant to see the Los Teros going down to Australia. A brilliant rugby team, and I think they're going to feature very, very well in the Rugby World Cup, representing that part of South America. So well done to everybody in Uruguay. Okay, so let's talk about what I thought was a fantastic game at Eden Park in the weekend. The dust has settled a little bit, although lots of people are still talking about the referee. I'm not going to do that here on this channel. I'm not going to waste my energy. Refs have been talked about since the start of the game of rugby, good, bad, and the ugly in every game there is. It's something we need to put up with as long as humans are involved in refereeing these games. I'd rather talk about what actually went on during the game with the players, the tactics, the strategies, and all of that stuff. So today I'm focusing on the All Blacks, and I've put it into three categories: the good, the bad, and the ugly. And despite what a lot of people think, there are a lot of things to talk about in each of those categories. So let's start off with the good stuff, because it deserves that. The All Blacks had a win against the Springboks. They keep the unbeaten run at Eden Park intact. And I think that's something that's very good that came out of the game for the All Blacks. They kept the Eden Park record intact. There was a lot of hype around this game, a lot of pressure on Scott Robertson and the boys. And at the end of the day, no matter what you think, they delivered and they got the score on the board. So that's all that counts as far as that goes. Now, looking at some of the things that I thought were good from this game for the All Blacks. First of all, I thought their intensity at the beginning was very, very good. They obviously hit the ground running in this game. They came out pumped up and they were right on it from the first minute. And as a result of that, it gave them a good opportunity to get on that front foot and start to get some momentum in the game. And I said in my preview video, didn't I, if the All Blacks got off to a good start, got a couple of tries on the board, they would be very difficult to run down, and that's what turned out to be the case in this game. But there was, of course, a lot more to it, and I'll talk about it in this video. But I thought the way the All Blacks came out with that intensity at the beginning was very, very good. And then, of course, the first try, this try to Narawa, I thought he did exceptionally well to be able to control that kick. It didn't go straight to him, did it? He had a lot of work to do. He went on the ground, he wasn't tackled, so he was able to get up and go again, and he did a brilliant run to the line and created that really, really good try, missed by a couple of South African would-be tacklers. But I thought the way that Narawa did that, you could tell that he was really dialed into this game. And one of the bad things I've got on my list is that he went off injured, and that was unfortunate for Narawa, because I thought he was really focused and dialed in to have a good game for the All Blacks. He made a great contribution by scoring that try before he left the field. So I thought that was another good thing that went well for the All Blacks in the weekend. Now, the next thing that I thought went well was the All Blacks game plan. They came out with intent. The weather conditions were terrible at the beginning of the game. It was raining hard. Someone said in the comments yesterday the weather wasn't that bad. It wasn't. Well, we've got a few people that were at the game in the comments. Have a read of that. Listen to what Rassie and Scott Robertson said after the game about the very difficult conditions for the players to play in. It was tricky. There was no doubt about it. And there was some very heavy rain at the beginning of the game. You could see that on TV if you had it turned on. So the All Blacks, I thought they went to their game plan. They were able to get those 2 early tries, which is always paramount, I believe, in the All Blacks, getting the intention, the inspiration to play their game and go well. It also brought the crowd into play. So I thought that was another good thing from the All Blacks. They got the crowd involved early. They got the intensity up. They got the game management execution right. And they were able to get a couple of good tries. So that was the scoreboard pressure they were starting to put on. So that was another good thing the All Blacks did in this game, is they immediately created scoreboard pressure. Now moving on to some of the players specifically that I thought were good for the All Blacks in this game, that I saw early in the game. Simon Parker, I thought, was doing very, very well. He was involved, wasn't he? You could see him in the breakdowns making a difference. His strength was something that was really key, I thought, in that number 6 jersey. And I think he's going to grow into a really fantastic player for the All Blacks. So Simon Parker stood out for me. I saw something different in Tupou Vai in this game too early on. He had an energy about him. He was really getting himself G'd up every time the All Blacks had a good outcome in a particular play. You could see by his body language and his facial expression that he was really up for this game. So I thought Tupou Vai did very, very well. He was also doing well in the lineouts, as was Scott Barrett. And I thought early on, when the All Blacks were controlling some of their lineouts, they did do very, very well. Now we also talk about lineouts over on the bad side of things as well. And that's probably something I'll say in this video. Things can be on the good side and they can also be on the bad and the ugly side, so just be prepared for that. And while talking about that, I've got to talk about Rieko Ioane on the good side, because of course he did that amazing try-saving tackle, didn't he? Which would have made a huge difference in this game if the BOKS had got a try at that particular point. So Rieko Ioane on the good side, he did that, no doubt about it. Very, very good effort. We also saw some good efforts at times from Finlay Christie in this game, but he's going to be one of those players that I can definitely put on the bad and the ugly side in my analysis of this particular game. I thought Beauden Barrett started off pretty well in this game in terms of his general play. He was trying to manage the game the best he could in the conditions, but I'm also going to talk about some of the things that were on the bad side that I thought from the All Blacks. But something else that was good from them, they took their opportunities, I thought, with those points in the first half. They also remained disciplined, and we didn't see any yellow cards from the All Blacks, and you can talk all you want about the referee in the comments. But I thought that was good. They weren't giving away a lot of penalties, so therefore they weren't inviting this BOKS through that particular element into the game. And that was something that we had talked about a lot, wasn't it, before the game this weekend. So what else was good from the All Blacks? Well, of course, Will Jordan's try. So that line-out move, that was a set piece, obviously. Satiti off the back, straight to Will Jordan, and again, individual brilliance from the All Blacks, getting them in to score that try. So again, keeping scoreboard pressure on the Springboks and making sure they got a good lead. Beauden Barrett, 50-22. Wasn't it an amazing kick? If you have a look at it again in a replay, it was absolutely brilliant stuff. So once again, really, really good work, specialist work from Beauden Barrett. You've got to put that on the good side of things for the All Blacks. Another thing I think the All Blacks did well in the first half was keeping the Springboks to just 3 points, and I think this was a really big thing. I talked about it in the preview video as well. I said limiting the Springboks in that first half was going to be critical for the All Blacks, because I did expect the Springboks to come back stronger in the second half, and that's exactly what happened in this game, wasn't it? Now, I think another thing the All Blacks did good in the game was keeping the pressure on the BOKS at times. And if you read a lot of the South Africans' comments, they're blaming their players for all the errors and everything. Well, errors come from pressure, and the All Blacks were putting significant pressure on the Springboks at times. It wasn't an easy game from a weather condition point of view, but it also wasn't an easy game for the BOKS to handle with the up-front defensive line from the All Blacks. They were doing very, very good. They were going in hard at the breakdown. They were putting a lot of pressure on Grant Williams and Andre Pollard. And as a result of that, those guys didn't have the same amount of time as maybe what they had against Australia in that series. So I thought that was very good in terms of the way the All Blacks kept pressure on the Springboks. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the bad things that I thought happened from the All Blacks in this game. First one is their second half performance again. They're just not able to dial in closing out games. It's been a consistent issue with this team, and they were beaten again on the point by points in the second half of this game by 14 points to 10. Now, despite the win, it was a simple one for me. If Andre Pollard had got the penalty that he missed by just 2 inches, And if Rieko Ioane hadn't done that try-saving tackle when the BOKS were over the All Blacks try line, then the BOKS would have won this game by 3 points. It was that close, and that's how many inches were in it. So there wasn't much to think about when it came to this game. Could have gone either way, and they were very, very close to scoring that try that Rieko Ioane saved. So with that in mind, let's look at some of the things that weren't going so well from the All Blacks in my opinion. The first one, I thought their kicking and their game management in the second half was poor. They were giving too many kicks away, giving the Springboks back three the opportunity to get the ball and to go on the offensive when the All Blacks had a good lead in this game. They needed to play it tighter, keep the ball in their own possession, use the weather to their advantage, but they kept giving the ball back to the Springboks. And I thought that was just poor from a kicking point of view, but also from a game management point of view. So I thought that was a bad thing the All Blacks were doing. Now, another bad thing I think about this All Blacks team at Eden Park was Rieko Ioane's selection. And despite the try-saving tackle, which was brilliant, I'll give him that, do you want to pick a winger for your team that is only there to protect your own try line and to do defensive work? No, you don't. You want to pick a winger that's going to score tries for you. Look at Amoni Naru. He came on, he had intention in this game. He scored a try in the first couple of minutes, and really that's what you want from your wingers. South Africa don't pick Kurt Lee Ardenser and Cheslin Colby and Kanan Moody, and Australia don't pick Max Jorgensen and Corey Toole for their defensive work. And Argentina don't have Carreras and Delgi and Esgro at the wings for them just to do defensive work. These guys are in the team to score tries, and most of them do. We saw 2 brilliant tries from the wingers for the Argentines in the weekend. We saw Max Jorgensen again for the Wallabies. But Rieko Ioane, we're not seeing him score tries, so I think his selection in this All Black team is a bad thing, even though I give him a lot of credit for the try-saving tackle he did in this game in the weekend. The other bad thing I saw in this game was Finlay Christie's box kicking. I gave him credit for some of the elements he was playing in this game, but I thought his box kicking was terrible. It was too frequent. It was going to Neville nobody. It wasn't giving the All Blacks an opportunity to be competitive. And you can really tell, can't you, when Roygaard and Ratama and Hotham are not in this team for the All Blacks. Don't forget, Finlay Christie is our 4th choice, so he wouldn't even normally be in this team, but he's there at the moment covering because of injury. So one other thing I want to point out about Finlay Christie, which I thought was bad as well, if you go back to the second Argentine game, you'll see when Matera went on that busting run and got 15 metres towards the All Black line from that scrum. It was Finlay Christie that missed the tackle initially from him. Also, Damien McKenzie was pushed off Matera as well. And then in this game, we saw Quagga Smith go for a great run. Finlay Christie missed him, almost got to the line, Quagga Smith. And in Cobus Reinhardt's try, where was Finlay Christie there on defence? So yeah, a couple of absolute errors in defence from Christie, while other people are saying that he had a great defensive game, and I don't think he had a very good kicking game as well. And then when Kyle Preston came on, well, I'm going to put Kyle Preston in the good category because I thought he steadied the ship. He didn't do anything wrong. He, of course, saved a potential try when the ball went back into the All Blacks in goal area. He had no other option but to force it for a line dropout, but he did a solid defensive piece of work there. He was the player on the spot to cover that for the All Blacks, and for the rest of the time he was on the field, no problem at all for Kyle Preston. I thought he did well, and I'd love to see the guy get a start in Wellington next weekend. Okay, next thing on the bad list for the All Blacks, the scrum in the second half. What was going on there? We were just brutalised on a couple of occasions, but then on a couple of other occasions we came back and we won penalties. So it's not all bad, but there were some bad situations there, and I think Lomax and Williams, a lot of you are saying in the comments they will be better because of this run this weekend. Well, I hope so, because don't forget Williams did play in Argentina, if you've forgotten that one. But I hope they're better, because the Springboks scrum made them look like juniors in 1 or 2 occasions during that game. So I think Jason Ryan's got a bit of work to do this week, and making sure that scrum is going to be on point for every scrum. It's no good just having 1 or 2 wins in a game. You've got to be able to front up every scrum. And of course, when Cody Taylor went off, there was a bit of a gap there because Takiaho had to come on for a larger period of this game than what we're used to seeing him. Now, I'm not saying Takiaho's bad at all. I think he's a great player, actually. He's been playing really well. Top try scorer so far in the Rugby Championship. But he was doing, I'm not sure that he's the same technical scrumming level that Cody Taylor's at. That's my view on that one. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. Okay, what else is bad about the All Blacks' performance in my opinion? Well, it's got to be their backline and their lack of creativity. Let's look at the tries and see how they were scored. The first try, a piece of individual kicking brilliance from Beauden Barrett out to Imoni Narawa, who actually did his own little bit of brilliance to get up off the ground and score that try. So that wasn't a fluid backline move from the All Blacks at all. It was two players in the backline connecting to score a try. And then we saw it again. We saw Will Jordan, a little bit of individual brilliance in combination with Wallace Satiti. Again, not a flowing backline move from the All Blacks with all the players involved. And then the third one, Beauden Barrett out to Quinn Tupaia, who did a very good job to score that try. He had a lot of South African players to beat, and he went over and did that. But the forwards had already done the work in sucking in the Springboks defence through a number of phases before the ball came out to Tupaia, so that made the job a little bit better, easier, but he did score a good try. But again, it wasn't a flowing backline move. If you watched the games in the weekend, you sort of would have seen the Argentine backline absolutely brilliant. The ball going from one side of the field to the other, every player involved in the handling, standing deep, running onto the ball, running around the competition, outnumbering the Australian defence, and both wingers scoring a brilliant try to Dalgi and then on the other wing to Carreras. That's the type of thing we used to see from the All Black backline. That's what we don't see anymore, and you can hear in my frustration that that's what's lacking. So still in this game, it was bad from the All Blacks. We haven't seen... Actually, name to me in the comments when you last saw the All Blacks scoring a try through the entire backline where the ball was run deep and they got around their outside defensive men. I can't remember a time last when the All Blacks had that kind of play. And that's what I'm talking about. That's bad about this All Black backline. They're just not being creative and getting through the ball through hands in a competent level. How many times have we seen drop balls, passes going over the head of the player or behind the player and the play breaking down, or just the one-off run into the rush defence and then turnover ball again? You know, the standard play from this All Black backline is one or two out into the rush defence, set up second phase play and go again through the forwards. That seems to be it. We're not showing a good absolute ability of able to get the ball through the backline. We're relying on Jordan going on a one-off break to score, or a crossfield kick like we saw from Imoni Narawa, and we saw Sevu Reece do that, I think, also in the first Argentinian game. That's what I think is bad about this All Black backline at the moment. So again, the kicking and general play was terrible at times in the second half. The game management in the second half, giving the ball away to the Springboks and giving them an opportunity to get back into the game. And then another thing I think was bad from the All Blacks was the way they didn't handle the momentum shift in the game. And I talked about this also in the preview video if you watched that. So when teams are getting that momentum, and we saw the Springboks getting the momentum in the second half and really get back in the game, the All Blacks didn't have an answer for it. Outside of that try with Quinn Tupaia, we never looked like getting down into the Springboks 22 and scoring more points. We never looked like having a creative opportunity down in that Springboks territory. The game was played within the 45 or in the All Blacks half for the second half, and they had a lot more possession and territory than the All Blacks, and the All Blacks weren't able to shift that momentum. And what they tried to do is they tried to kick their way down into the Springboks half, but it didn't work because Willie LaRue and Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu, when he came on, they just brought the ball back into the All Blacks and they started putting more and more pressure on the All Blacks, and that's how they got back into the game. So I think the game management from the All Blacks in the second half was really, really poor again. Now, to make this video a bit of fun, I have to have some ugly things in there as well. So I thought the weather was ugly. I think you can agree on that. It wasn't a beautiful night in Auckland. It was a great atmosphere though and a fantastic occasion, but the weather was ugly. And the other thing that I thought was ugly was something that was personal that I picked up on throughout the whole hype in the game and the post-game and all the rest of it. And that was the over-hyping of Ardie Savea's 100th game for the All Blacks. In particular, some of the vocabulary that was used in the press conferences by Scott Robertson and also Scott Barrett. I had to feel sorry for Cody Taylor. This is a guy who played 100 games for the All Blacks. His 100th game was in Argentina. Of course, it was away from home, and the All Blacks lost that game. And there was no talk about that. There was no talk this weekend about doing it right for Cody Taylor. There was all the talk about doing it right for Ardie Savea. And I can understand Ardie's a bigger than life personality in the world of rugby, and maybe much bigger than what Cody Taylor is. But Cody Taylor's also played 100 games for the All Blacks, and they had that terrible loss on Cody Taylor's 100th game in Argentina. So I would have seen this week, I would have liked to seen a lot more focus around doing the redemption for Cody Taylor in his 100th game, as well as doing it for Ardie Savea. That was just something that I thought was a little bit ugly from the All Blacks, and they overemphasised the Ardie 100th game when it came to the press conferences and everything. That's just how I felt about it. I felt a bit sorry for Cody Taylor. I thought the All Blacks needed to go out there and use a redemption for him this weekend, also to give them a little bit of motivation. This next point I'm going to talk about is not a good, a bad or an ugly. It's just an observation that I made. A lot of people are now talking about Razor Robertson being a world-class coach because he bet the Springboks at home at Eden Park. He kept the record alive and blah, blah, blah. Well, for me, one swallow doesn't make a summer. And while it was a very good win, and I'll give Razor credit and all the rest of it, I thought one of the interesting stats to bear in mind for all the Kiwi supporters out there, and maybe other supporters as well, is that Razor, since he's been in charge of this All Black team, he's lost 5 games, right? He's lost 4 of those games away from home. So the All Blacks are not doing as well with Razor when they're travelling, and they've lost 1 game, of course, that game against Argentina in Wellington last year. So one of the things that I've recognised is when Razor's at home, he's able to bring in some of these other people into the squad. So a lot of the build-up this week, we saw Wayne Smith being heavily involved in the All Black training sessions. We heard of Michael Jones coming in and giving motivational speakers. And it was almost like Razor at times had outsourced some of the components of the hyping up the game, the motivational, the inspiration to get these guys really keyed up. Now, I don't have an issue with that if that's a genuine strategy that he's got, but he can't do that when he's away from home, of course. And I'm just wondering, it's just something that's going on in my mind, whether that's something that's been playing into Razor's psychology when he's away and the All Blacks have had those losses away from home. So when he's at home, he's got that comfort zone, you can call it, around him. He's able to bring in those ex-All Blacks and get their opinions on a few things, which is a nice thing to have, and good on those guys for coming in and doing that. I'm not looking at this in a negative context. I'm just looking at it from an observational point of view, saying, well, maybe this is one of the things that helped the All Blacks, because there was a lot of mention about Michael Jones's speech to the All Blacks and how it really hit their hearts during the week, and also Wayne Smith and his involvement in this team and getting them to remember about some of the things, the values around that All Black jersey. And maybe those guys were expressing it in a way that Razor and his crew are not able to do at the moment. That was just purely something I picked up on. I'd like to know what your thoughts around that might be in the comments. So there you go, just picking up on some good, bad and the ugly from this weekend's game in terms of focusing down on the All Blacks. I want you all to remember 2 inches, Andre Pollard's penalty kick missed by. If that had gone over and Rieko Ioane didn't get to that player's arm and the ball went down over the try line, the Springboks would have won this game by 3 points. So that's how close it was. So there should be no room for comfort, and there should be a lot of humility in the All Black camp heading into Wellington, because I'm sure the Springboks are going to learn from that, come back firing and take those points that they just missed out on and have a real go next weekend. And as I keep saying on my channel here, any weekend, any team can win. It all depends on who turns up on the day and puts in that performance. And I'll say it again, I think the All Blacks did well enough in that first half by scoring those couple of tries, and at the end of the day, that's what made the difference in this particular game. And of course, that could all go very different next weekend in Wellington. Okay, that's it for me in this particular video. I'll see you again soon from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Until next time, keep safe, keep well, keep watching your rugby. Bye for now.